talked about taking a trip up to meet my parents?
I think Gabe is gonna propose to me on Christmas Eve. You don't think that's kind of fast?
You better watch out for wintry conditions.
Oh. I plowed into a snowbank.
What? Is the car?
Car is fine. I'm okay too.
Hey, you okay?
Can you help me? I'm stuck.
I'm sorry to tell you, it might be a few days.
You can come stay with us at our family farm.
It's beautiful up here.
This place is much more than just a farm to me. It's a life I love.
I really love being here.
Well, I really love having you here, JJ.
We need to think about selling the farm. Dad left us with lots of debt.
Our great-great-great-grandfather built this house. Dad spent his entire life looking after the place.
I don't know why I didn't think of this before, but with all those extra rooms, why not turn this place into a bed and breakfast? We could have the grand opening on Christmas Eve.
Welcome to the Lewis family bed and breakfast maple syrup farm.
We need to talk. Just don't know if what we have is enough.
Does this have anything to do with you being up at that maple farm?
This is about me and what I want. My heart led me back to you. When I'm with you and your family at the farm, it feels like home.
You really are a Christmas miracle. You've brought so much joy into my life.
This is the sappiest thing anyone has ever done for me.
Well, what did you expect from a maple syrup farmer?
Hi, my name is Pinky, and today I'll be chatting with filmmaker, casting director, actress, and producer Rebecca Lamarche. Rebecca, thank you for chatting with me today.
Hey, thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, so first thing I would really interested to know is the different roles that you have taken up in the industry. As I introduced, you're a producer, you're a filmmaker, you're also a casting director and actress. Is there a favorite among those roles?
I feel like that's been my most asked question lately.
Yeah.
And yes, easily my favorite is acting. But that being said, for as long as I love and want to stay as an actor, I would always produce. I wouldn't want to act and not work as a producer as well. And then that being said, I don't think I would stay producing if I didn't want to act. So they're very tied to me, even though I keep them often very separate. And I love casting. So in terms of love right now, it probably goes acting, casting, producing, but producing's super important to me.
I see. And do you think being in those different roles, when you're acting and sometimes you're producing and you're casting, how do they being in each role kind of help you or give you new perspective? And does it help with being in all these different positions?
Yeah, definitely. I really feel each job informs the other.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to see how acting and casting are related. They can be very different, of course, but watching all these amazing auditions and seeing what works for people and what doesn't informs my work as an actor. My work as an actor informs how I look at other actors. And then for producing, it's also just as related. Being on set and seeing how people are working informs the acting, and just being on set and knowing what the priorities are in terms of deal making helps with the casting.
I see. And what inspired you at first? Do you always know you want to be in the entertainment industry? What motivated you to be where you are now?
That's a great question. So I'll start with, did I always know? And the answer is no. There were so many other careers that I was interested in for a very long time. Growing up, I wanted to be a vet. Then in high school, I switched and decided I wanted to be a surgeon. And then at the end of grade 12, before applying to universities, I just suddenly really caught this bug where it was the seed was planted and it was always there and I didn't know it was growing. And I realized I wanted to pursue acting. So I went to school for theater and journalism, graduated, was pursuing acting, working a little bit as an actor. And that's when I realized I wanted a complementary career that could support acting. And I realized journalism wasn't going to work for that because it's just as much of a hustle as acting, but it doesn't complement. So I had two ideas at the time of what I wanted to branch into, and one was real estate and the other was filmmaking. So I thought, you know what, let's give filmmaking a chance. Let's see if I like it. It complements so well. So I applied for a postgraduate program in filmmaking to do producing and screenwriting, you know, the journalism thing, tying it all together. And I got in, but it was something like half a year away. And I was like, well, I'm not going to wait for half a year. I'll just try to get hired. I'll just try to work on sets and see what I can figure out. And I started working so much and learning so much that I didn't end up going to the program, and just really zeroed in on the things I wanted to learn and work on. And I figured if I can be working and learning, that's more valuable than going to school for it. That's how I felt at the time. So I was really particular in what projects I'd give my energies and what opportunities I'd give my energies to.
Back to where you were talking about. So you're saying you wanted to be a vet and then a surgeon, something like that? And then when you were like younger. Yeah, but like, that's actually very, very different. Like, but when you were a kid, did you also went into anything related to acting? Or were you in like drama classes? Did you participate in other like acting related stuff that makes you feel like, oh, maybe this is where I should be headed?
Sort of. When I was in high school, I had been very athletic, and I had hurt my back and had to stop doing varsity sports at the time. And I had all this free time after being a competitive athlete. And I was like, oh, you know, it might be fun to audition for a play. And so I started doing plays and then started taking drama classes in high school. So that definitely fueled my interest in it. But I knew I was never interested in theater.
I see.
It's just never had that spark for me. It's never lit me up the same way anything does on set. So even though I went to school for theater and went to university for theater and journalism, I knew that if I were to pursue this, it would be for film and television. I think I just always had such an immense love for the format. And even as a kid, just being obsessed with Disney movies, obsessed. Like my mom even says when she was pregnant, if certain movies would play, I would respond differently.
Wow.
Yeah.
What was that play? Did she tell you?
That was if she was playing Cinderella and the mice were singing, I would always like jump around.
Yeah.
So I always was really affected and very into film and television. I was always, you know, things you realize after the fact. I would watch anything, that Julia Roberts movie or a BBC Jane Austen adaptation miniseries, and I would go take my dog for a walk as a kid and just in my head be in character and like replaying the scenes.
That's
nice. But at that point, I still had nothing on my radar about being an actor. It wasn't a thought to me, but the clues were there.
But I'm just curious because being actor and being an actress obviously need a certain amount of confidence, but are you like very confident, or when you're younger, were you more like, oh, I'm shy, but like you have practice to gain this confidence now as an actor?
Oh, okay. These are great questions. I feel like one of the gifts I've been given in life is I've always been very confident. I've never been shy. I love people. I'm such a people person. I love throwing myself into big groups, meeting new people. I'm the kind of person that will go to a party even if I know one person there. Wow. Yeah. So I'm definitely a confident extrovert.
Yeah, that's good to know though. It must be beneficial to the industry of not being shy and putting yourself out there. So
yeah, for sure.
So like back in like the filmmaking, like what's your inspiration for filmmaking, or are there like social topics you always want to include in your own filmmaking and when you're producing?
Well, inspiration for filmmaking now, I would say I'm very drawn to true stories. And I think in the next handful of years, that's where I'd like to start shifting my focus. once again, the seeds that I wouldn't have thought were there, but always were. It's kind of the interest in journalism before I'm starting to realize, for me, true stories are endlessly fascinating because a lot of the time, fact is stranger than fiction. And some of the true stories out there you would never believe if they were a novel or an original screenplay. So I do think a lot more true story adaptations. I love dramas. And then I would like to get into some genre-based things, but that's more as an actor. So as an actor, I'd like to get into more fantasy, action, period piece. But as a producer, I think dramas and true story adaptations is what I'm more interested in.
Oh, that is actually very, like, I'm curious to know, like, how do, like, producer actually usually get their true stories inspiration from? Do they actually go out and talk to people, or do people actually propose their stories? Or, like, how are these stories found before they're made into movies and, like, quoted, inspired, or, like, inspired by true stories, or, like, like, something like that? Like, how's the process like, actually, if you can tell us?
Yeah, so it depends how the story's out there. So if it's someone that's lived a remarkable life and you're interested in telling their story, you can then approach them and option or purchase what's called their life rights, which is just a wildly fascinating thing and concept that's out there. So that's one way to do it. If they've published a memoir or have some sort of IP, intellectual property out there, you can then approach them for that. Some people might even have an agent. If there's someone that does talking circuits, who works as like a personal speaker, they might have an agent that you can approach or that might be pitching them. So in some cases, they might already have a team, attorneys, managers, agents that have their material or them as a person out there for the world. But I think a lot of the time it takes an inspired, curious person to seek it out.
That's interesting to know. And like moving on to the next part, I would like to know, because we're officially in the festive season and you have your new movie, Sappy Holiday, which premiered in Canada already. Like, can you tell us more about your role? I know that it's about something related to maple tree syrup farm.
And then you have a snowflake.
Oh, beautiful. I remember making these when I was little. Ooh, what is that? It smells delicious.
Nana's famous pumpkin bread.
With some whipped maple butter made with the maple syrup from our farm.
Mmm. That is so good. You could sell this.
Well, coming from you, dear, that's a huge compliment.
She only makes it on special occasions. We're trying to wean the kids off sugar.
Need some help, Nana?
Oh, I would love some.
So, Rebecca, how do you and David meet?
We met in college.
Oh, what'd you study?
I studied interior design.
Cool.
Didn't get a chance to put my skills to use. I got pregnant with Dylan in college. Just one of those life swerves.
Life swerves?
Yeah, like life's taking this way, then swerve. Best detour of my life. Then Riley came along, and here we are.
And what about David?
He majored in business. No surprise there. Now he works at a big financial corporation.
I don't mean to pry, but what's the deal with him and James?
You've been here only a couple of days and you already see it.
Kind of hard to miss.
They used to be so close, but David feels that James resents him for going away to college and leaving him with the farm. David also says that it doesn't make financial sense to keep the farm. The place has been in the family for generations. James would never consider selling, and I get it. David and I got married here.
You did?
Yeah.
That's so special.
It was perfect.
You must have a lot of fond memories of this place. I mean, I've only been here a couple days, and I already do.
The kids have been coming here since they were babies. It'd break my heart to see it go.
Well, I really hope it all works out. For you and your family.
Me too.
Yeah, so Sappy Holiday, which did just premiere here in Canada on Super Channel Heart and Home, but will continue to air up until and throughout the holiday season. It also premieres in America on Up TV this Saturday, December 17th. So it follows Joy, who is a very heartfelt, gregarious, passionate woman. She's a sous chef, and she learns that her boyfriend's going to propose on Christmas Eve, and she starts doubting all her life decisions. And as she's driving out to meet up with him and his family to spend the holidays, she gets stuck in a snowstorm and is rescued by a maple syrup farmer.
That's where that comes in.
That's where the maple syrup comes in. And so he whisks her away to this family maple syrup estate, and the farm. And you then start intermingling. I am married to his brother, so I'm the sister-in-law. And all of us start unraveling like our family dynamics, our family dramas, because the holidays can be a very tumultuous time for families, and there's actually a lot of family conflict in this. But what Joy is the key to is realizing that we all have skills and a lot of heart that can really reunite this family, but also potentially save the maple syrup farm from ruin. So my character, her name is Rebecca.
Oh, awesome.
Also Rebecca. I've played a few Rebeccas, and she was an interior designer who was in school for it, but then she got pregnant of her first child and dropped out, but it was okay because she was with her husband now, and they have a beautiful family and a beautiful life. However, all of her best memories happened at this farm. So it's her wedding was there, her kids, all their holidays were there. So for her, it's a massive deal being able to fight to save this farm.
Yeah. Is she also doing interior design for the farm in the movie?
Well, that may or may not be a plot point, but but that would be some of her skills that she can use to help potentially reinvent how they can profit off of the farm.
I see. How do you like acting like all these different roles so far? Because let's say you have this interior designer role, are you always so interested in interior design at first? Were prepping for this role make you learn so much more new stuff on the way?
Ooh, I wish that was the case, but we don't. In this film, for example, we don't get to see the process as much as the before, the after, or how things are coming into play. I would really love to do a movie that calls for a new skill. I've been surprised on set before where suddenly a choreographer will appear and they'll say, "We're here to teach you your choreography for the day."
Yeah.
And I think, I'm not a dancer, but we always make it work. But no, I really am looking forward to a project where I can learn some new skills and really sink into it. But kind of on the heels of your question, I really, as an actor, want to get into action movies. So for the past 3 years, I've been training, certified, licensed, and competing with firearms, so pistol shooting. I
see. That's cool. How is it learning that so far? I've always think it's so cool, but obviously it's very loud. Obviously it's gotta be loud, and is it hard to aim? And how's your scoring so far? Is that the word to use?
Yeah, totally. So it is very loud, but you have to and should always use ear and eye protection. So as long as you're, behaving yourself and being safe as you really need to with this sport, that's fine. You just wear foam, earbud cancelers and headphones, and then some ballistic eyewear. So you're nice and safe. As I've learned, I'm wearing a tank top type top right now. And even though it's not revealing the swoop neck, I could not wear that shooting. I've gotten so many burns shooting. Crew neck is the least you can wear. I don't know how you see all these videos online of Americans in very deep V's and bralettes shooting, and all I can think of are the burns that would be all over their body. So that's kind of like the wardrobe or the safety, like added accessories you need.
Yeah.
And then for scoring, I find I'm very, very accurate, but what I'm working on is my speed. So in the sport I do, you're measured on speed, accuracy, and power. And I find my accuracy is really on, and I'm not slow, but for the sport, I need to get faster.
I see. That's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just also curious to know, are there a lot of like women in where you're learning your firearm pistol shooting? Like, this sounds, or like most of the time, it's sad to say, but like a man's sport. But is this something you want to do or something you want to practice in a sense to like promote feminism to say like, this is not just what the man can do? Like, I mean, right now in today's world, obviously, women are getting more and more powerful, and this is not something that they won't be doing and they aren't doing. But I'm just curious to know, within your community, like within your firearm learning institute or like your competition, how's the like atmosphere like now?
Yeah, well, I can say off the top of my head, I know one other female shooter and have seen, I think, one other besides her at competitions. There are lots more. I'm not exposed to them. Anytime I go shooting, I'll be lucky if there's one other woman there. I think it's a lot more inclusive in America than here in Canada, given their gun culture. But still, here it's almost entirely men, and a lot of them are much older. And everyone, you get a lot of, I will say, they're all very excited, and not in a weird way, but they're all very excited that I'm there. Like, they want more women to join.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, they would like more women to join because they're fans of the sport, and they want the sport to grow and view that like men and women, it's just as easy for a man and a woman to use a firearm. It's the great equalizer, right?
Yeah.
But it's also kind of funny because I had a hard time adjusting my headspace. I've been used to a lot of environments where I'm the only female because starting out on set, my job on production side for filmmaking, it's a very male dominant culture.
Yeah.
So I'm used to being one of the only women in a room. But I will say, when I was learning, like my first year into firearms, I really was getting sick of, I could barely move without someone stopping me and telling me how they thought I should shoot my own pistol, you know, or how I should be doing things. And it had really great intentions behind it because people they were excited I was there, and they wanted me to have a good time, and they wanted me to do better. But it got to the point where I was getting really irritated.
Yeah.
So it's a very insightful question you asked.
I see. But like, so being in the film industry, like filmmaking industry, as you said, being like the few women in the industry, how would you like encourage or like tell others right now that who might be interested in this industry, especially girls, women, like how should they explore their places in the industry?
Well, I'll say, first of all, I've noticed a massive growth over the last handful of years, 3 or 4 years. I work with tons of women now, and women in positions of power and positions of decision-making and creative control, female directors, producers, and oftentimes you'd see women in heads of department, but they'd be in heads of departments such as makeup, maybe hair, art department, much more air quotes like creative jobs, which is hilarious because all jobs in film are very creative. And some of them are very physically demanding, such as, art department. They're moving couches and setting up drywall, and I mean, they're doing amazing things. But now over time, I'm seeing a much more diversification of women on set, female cinematographers, directors, female camera crew. It's really, really becoming a much more inclusive place, and it's exciting to see. So I would say to women who are interested in getting involved and maybe feeling apprehensive or shy about it or not sure where to start, if you're not sure where to start, just start by getting any experience, even as a production assistant on set, any form of assistant on set, but a PA is typically the entry point. and identify where you want to go and just start asking around and trying to be helpful and learn as you can go.
Yeah, that's great advice for others. So beside the on-screen appearances, I know like your producing work, you do a lot of quite some Christmas movies too, like Christmas Lucy Charm, Santa's Got Style, Christmas in Wolf Creek. Are you a big fan of Christmas yourself? Like why, like how did this happen with all the Christmas movies and creations?
Well, the first part of your question, yes, I am a big fan of Christmas. And even before working in this genre, I'd always watch these movies, often with my mom. It's how I would get in, into the holiday spirit. So I do love Christmas. I do think it's the most wonderful time of the year. But to just answer you completely honestly, as a filmmaker or as a producer, I work with a company, and the company mostly does Christmas movies. So that's been a lot of the business that I've been a part of through the company.
I see. And like Santa's Got Style is also premiering in Canada before Christmas Eve. Like, can you share with us like your experience, like casting and producing for it?
Yes. So we actually just did a screening at one of the Cineplexes here, like on the big movie theater. Santa's Got Style. It premieres here on City TV in Canada on December 23rd. And I have to say, I think it's one of the best Christmas movies that we've ever made. And I think it might be one of the best TV Christmas movies I've seen. It's really playful. It's very funny. Usually this genre, it's called rom-com, but it's really just a Christmas romance.
Yeah.
This has a lot of comedy. It's very playful. It's imaginative. It's beautiful. The wardrobe's awesome. Casting, I must say, is pretty good. So one of the marquee names is Scott Thompson, who, of course, is seeing so much well-deserved attention from the Kids in the Hall revival. He's hilarious in it. There's Brian Sills. He's hilarious in it. And then the stars are Franco Lopresti and Catherine Davis, each of whom I believe I cast in their first leads of their careers in previous years.
Wow. And then you move into like this movie now. How's like casting experience like for you? Like, were you casting director first, or did you go to your first casting as an actor first? Which came first? And like,
acting for sure, years prior. Yeah.
Like, is there any memorable casting experience, like where you casted or where you're casting someone else that you could share with us too?
Oh gosh, they're all really exciting because it's a roller coaster for each movie, and it's really exciting, and I guess it just comes from the passion and love of it. But I'm trying to think of like a fun story.
Like the most memorable, or like most, I don't know, just something you would first think of when I ask you about casting. Like, is there like a way, somewhere where you were, you did like way better than you expected, or there's some twist in like, twists in the casting itself? Is there something like that?
Yeah, you know what? There's something that I think as an actor, I means a lot to me. So I was casting a series a few years ago, and there was a character that had been reserved for a marquee commercial American name. And we had identified that actor, and they were available, and they were interested. And of course, everyone wanted that person, and that's typically the way that would go because these commercial names help get eyeballs, right? Like that's the game. However, we didn't know before that, we didn't know if the person had been available. And so I held auditions for local performers here in Toronto to see, if there was a fit.
Yeah.
And this one audition came in from a local performer, and I was obsessed with it. He did such a good job. It was, once you saw him in the part, I couldn't picture anyone else, let alone this much more famous person who was now available for the role. And I had to really, really, really pitch to producers, director, our executive producers, the network, and really sell why this was the best person for this part. Not just the best actor, but the best person for this part. And ultimately, he got the role, and he doesn't know this story.
I wish he was listening now then.
Yeah. And we've worked with him many times since, too.
I see.
think
That's so nice.
You never know. Like, anything's possible, right?
Yeah. And for yourself, is there any, like, casting experience that you had that is, like, the best? Or is there, like, some that are not so good for yourself? Not like you're not doing well, but, like, the experience itself. How is it like?
Yeah. You know, I will say I love doing self-tapes, and the industry has moved into being able to do self-tapes. And I find when you're doing self-tapes, you get to be like a little bit more creative in how you're presenting your work.
Yeah.
So this summer, I was auditioning for this show where I get attacked by a werewolf in the audition.
Okay.
And I remember just looking at this and thinking, how am I going to do this? Because on the set, you have the werewolf and you have a camera crew.
Yes.
It's like, how am I going to do this? Where typically when you're auditioning, the camera's just right in front of you, straight on, and you're just like a talking head and shoulders. And so I was trying to figure it out, and I set up this contraption of chairs and pillows, and I put it right below the frame. Yeah. And I found this collapsible walking stick and managed to do it where it looked like I got hit and thrown off camera, and then came back, ripped open the stick, and just started, you could hear like the beating on the pillows. And it worked so well, and I almost got it. But in the opposite of my other story, they ended up going with a famous marquee name.
But that's so creative for you to you have to even think about how you get attacked at home. It
was really fun because in that genre, and like I was saying, I want to do some,
action.
Fantasy.
Yeah, fantasy.
And action work.
Yeah.
There's a different tone to it, so you got to be a little bit more playful. And then in person, it is fun going in person for auditions, and I love the freedoms that come with doing it on my schedule and in my own space, but there is something magical about in-person auditions, and I think just sometimes you really connect with the people in the room. And I remember an in-person audition where the director was there, and I hadn't realized he had also written it. And I came in and he was just like, you are the only person who understood what we were trying to do. Like, you were the only person who understood the era, the tone, and just moments like that. Like, you just feel really good whether you book it or not when you're leaving,
Yeah, that's so cool. And for like fantasy, are you intrigued by fantasy stories, or are you more looking forward to the challenges like filming or acting itself? Because I know when like it comes to like Narnia or like Harry Potter, everything is like green screen, and it's like I'm always amazed after I saw like what's like reviewed online, like how they shoot it. Like, whoa, everything was green screen. How did they look like they actually saw that right in after production? And obviously fantasy stories are very intrigued and interesting too, but like for you, what's attracted you the most to say you want to be in the fantasy genre, I would say?
I'm just a nerd for it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I love, give me vampires, give me witches, give me dragons, give me werewolves. I love all that stuff. I love the supernatural magic components. I love the drama, story arcs that come with it. So for me, I'm just such a fan of the genre. I really want to act in it. Similar to what I was saying before about how I was a kid and these seeds were planted. I'd watch these shows and be in the characters in my head afterwards. I feel that way when I watch this genre now. So I would love to act in it. And I've often thought what you're saying, where you see the behind the scenes on how these things are made, and someone's looking at a tennis ball, and you find out that tennis ball is actually a dragon the size of my room right now. So I think that'd be really just fun and challenging. And then from a filmmaking perspective, the producing side, unless it was me acting in this fantasy thing I'm creating, I'm actually less interested in that. On a producing side, I think the challenges and creativity and fun of working with, vast, wide open spaces and landscapes and being on location is really cool.
Which fantasy movie or which is the character you would want to be in? I mean, it could be like those who already aired. Like, which is like your most favorite fantasy movie that you want to be in?
Oh gosh. I think so. Weirdly, I'm not thinking of a movie I've seen yet, but I think I'd like to play like a Valkyrie, or I'd really like to play a vampire.
Whoa.
And a witch. So out of the movies, like movies I've seen, I would love to do right now House of the Dragons. Like I love that series, that kind of world. It doesn't have to be that story. It doesn't have to be that, that actual franchise, but that kind of world. Yeah. I think is really cool. I used to love the Underworld, Mila Jankovic vampire movies. Like I just love the genre. I love the magic of it.
Yeah. Oh, that's interesting to know. Like a witch. It'll be like Halloween, but we're Christmas now, so.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because right now I just cast and I'm producing an action movie that's set at Christmas. So maybe I can convince the company to do like a fantasy movie set in Christmas.
So what can you tell us about this action Christmas movie? Are we expecting it next year or like the year after or like, yeah.
Yeah. So it'll be Christmas 2023. It is so much fun. We have like true action. We have people, falling 2 stories up, falling down. We have explosions. We have car chases. So it's a true action movie. It has a little bit of campy playfulness set at Christmas. The reference point is the only reference point that exists, which is Die Hard. That's the only reference point we've come up with for an action-based Christmas movie. But this one's modern. It's set today. It's really fun. I can't say too much. I'm stuttering because I can't say too much. We can't announce it yet, but it's got an amazing cast. I'm not saying that to pat myself on the back. Like I love our cast and I'm really inspired by our team right now. And it's going to be a fun one next year.
Nice. Like you just mentioned about like jumping off 2 stories high and everything. And you said you want to be an action movie. So I do want to, like, you seem a very adventurous person, but are you fear of heights or are you a lover for heights? Is that why you want to do action too? Do you want to do all those like flying, jumping, and like obviously you're like shooting? Is that what you always like to do?
Yeah, I'm not scared of heights, but but I think either way it would be a stunt performer doing that. So we have on this movie we have a great stunt team, and I know if I were to do an action movie as an actor, or when I do an action movie as an actor, I would do anything that the stunt coordinator feels is safe I can do. I would train to be able to do things. I would train to be able to do the action that is required to sell the role and really sink into that. But I do think that there's a certain limitation that that not a stunt person can do. And I think that I have so much respect for the industry that is stunt performers and the immense amount of training and experience they have. So I think it would definitely be a collaboration.
Yeah, that's so cool. Do you have any, so far in all those movies that you've participated, are there, one that is your favorite or that one that's the most memorable for you to act as an actor? Oh, would that be the thriller you do? I remember you did, what was the thriller? Deadly Mother.
Yeah, that was very fun. Yeah, that one was really fun. It was a nice change of pace. That was really cold to film. Oh man, that was a very cold shoot. It was a lot of fun. Great team. I did with that one just a few months prior. I did one called Fit for a Prince, and that one was also very fun. It was big, beautiful gowns and a big chateau, and Very fun. But I don't think I don't have a favorite movie that I've filmed yet.
You will.
I love, exactly. Like, I love each one I've had the chance to do, and it's such a joy and such a treat. Right before the pandemic in 2020, I got to do my first prosthetics, and my entire body was in prosthetics, and I was playing, the character name was Vanth, but I was essentially playing the devil incarnated into a demon.
Wow.
And it was absolutely full body prosthetics. I had horns coming out of my eyes. I had a different face. I had, silicone all over all my limbs, a big pregnant belly. I had paint everywhere, blood everywhere. That was a lot of fun. And I learned from that experience that not only do I really like acting in prosthetics, but it turns out the woman, Carly Morse, she created my body. She created the prosthetic for the character. And she's actually an Emmy award-winning special effects makeup artist. And she said that even just doing little prosthetics on people can send them into a panic attack. And it's something you can either do or you can't do because it's very claustrophobic.
Yeah, I would say so too.
But I loved it. Like I was so calm and almost liberated with it because let me tell you, there was no self-consciousness. There was no, oh, what am I doing with my face? Or do I look right here? I didn't have to get myself out of my own head, which you sometimes have to do as a performer.
Yeah.
I had to have fun with it.
That's so cool. But I mean, was it difficult to be acting with so much stuff on, like going on?
Yeah, it was. Well, I couldn't see. So that was very much a challenge because I was, crossing rooms and I was climbing out of a body. Like I had to rip through a body and come out of it. So it was very physically, it was challenging in that way. And also the makeup application, I think the full application itself was 8 hours. So it was 8 hours. And then I think I didn't even have a bathroom break until 12, 13 hours in. And that was partly of my own choosing because I couldn't even use my fingers. My fingers were twice as long as they are. And they had these double claws and how are you supposed to go to the bathroom? You know what I mean? Yeah. There's someone that helped me maneuver my wardrobe, but how are you supposed to do that?
I couldn't imagine, honestly.
That was a choice of mine. That wasn't, I wasn't pressured to not go to the washroom.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun. I definitely want to do more of that.
Yeah, I feel like people should know more about these kind of behind the scenes to be more giving more respect and credits to actors who are doing this, which are so challenging, as you said.
Yeah.
Oh, and I know that you're born and raised in Canada, and you were bilingual in French and English. Have you ever considered in participating in French-speaking movies as an actor then?
Yes. So I have a separate agent just in Montreal, and I've always said to her I would love to work in French cinema or French television shows. And so we haven't found the right part yet, but I would love to.
I see. Is that something, are you more... you are fluent in both languages, right?
Yeah, I am. I will say my accent is not Quebecois. And so a lot of the times the roles, they would need it to be that I'm an American coming in or I'm a Parisian coming in. But my accent isn't a perfect Quebecois. And so a lot of Quebec cinema, they want that for it.
I see.
But I have worked many times in Quebec, and what's interesting there is I'll be working and my content is in English, but all the crew will be speaking French. So the director, not always the director, but everyone else, hair, makeup, ADs, that can be in French. So that's kind of a fun little twist. And I also have worked in France before, where, again, an Anglo project, but where I was kind of the French liaise.
How was it, where did your career so far have taken you to a place where you really enjoyed? Because obviously you travel a lot with what you do. Is there like a place where you were like, oh, I'm so grateful I'm here with this career now?
Yeah, well, the project I just mentioned in France, that was definitely a highlight. We were filming in Lyon, and that was so much fun. It was my first time in Lyon, and definitely made a point to check it out while I was there. So that was a ton of fun. And then recently I was in LA, and LA is somewhere I had previously, I've been before, but I had previously waited. One of those cities I didn't want to go to until work took me there first. So
I see.
Been to LA for work, been to Lyon for film. And before all that, New York had been a place I had saved as well. But before I was working full-time in film, back when I was still in journalism, I used to go for New York Fashion Week. So that was a lot of fun too.
Wow, that's so fun. Do you still do that now or no?
No, but I really would like to restart that in the future. So I think it'll be some weird kind of alchemy when time, when there's more time for me to do other things outside of film. I would love to start going to fashion weeks again.
I see. So what's next for you ahead that we can expect?
Yeah, so I'm right now producing and have just finished casting this movie, which we're filming up until Christmas, like right up until.
Yeah.
So that's fun. And then in the new year, a bunch of movies that I'm already in the midst of prepping as a producer and casting. One's a mystery, another Christmas, all sorts of different things. So that's super fun. I'm going to be acting in a mystery movie in February. I have a romance premiere in the spring. It's called All Aboard for Love. And it's this really dreamy marina-based romance that's very fun. And another movie coming out next Christmas. And then I'm waiting on confirmation, but I'm very hopeful this pans out. I might be in a period piece series, a drama murder mystery next summer. So we'll see if it
So a lot of mysteries coming up for you, Rebecca.
Yeah, I know. I feel like there's a lot of trends. So a few years ago is when the Christmas movies were exploding. Everyone started doing Christmas and there was a lot of Christmas work. And then there were the thrillers. And now I feel like I'm seeing a lot of mysteries out there. So
yeah.
I'm just here for the ride.
But like, how's like the mystery? Do you like mysteries or like?
I do.
You do?
Yeah, I really do. Like, even in my spare time, I love reading murder mysteries. So I love trying to figure them out. I love mysteries. I think they're a lot of fun.
I see.
And I feel like it's active watching. Some movies, it's like passive watching. I love action movies, as you know. That feels more passive. I'm sitting back and enjoying the ride.
Yeah.
But for a mystery, I'm trying to figure it out as you go, and that's a lot of fun.
That's true. And for you said you're already in the middle of one that you're preparing now for Christmas. Is it in Canada? Like for the one that you're producing?
Oh, yeah. So the one that I'm producing and I cast, that's the action Christmas movie. So yeah, that one comes out next Christmas. And then also next Christmas, there's a movie that I acted. Yeah, acted. That's past tense. I think so.
Yeah. Well,
also,
that's already done. But it's just premiere next year.
Yes. So that'll premiere next year. Yeah.
And then it's all the mysteries coming up for you.
All the mysteries. Yes. All the murder mysteries.
All right. So thank you, Rebecca, for chatting with me today and telling me all about your careers and fun stuff in the roles that you've been in.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. It was really fun chatting with you. And I think you just had some really insightful questions that I wasn't expecting and were really fun to have.
Yeah. So thank you so much. And thank you to those who are listening. And until next time, this is Pinky for Next Big Thing.